Hi, I'm Christine Cushing and welcome to another helping of My Favorite Foods. Today we're going sweet. I'm taking you back to my pastry chef days when I would make a version of this recipe weekly. It is chocolate hazelnut biscotti. Little cookies that are ultra crispy, super delicious, and not too sweet. Let's get started. The one thing that I love about this recipe, it's all made by hand, so you don't need any fancy machinery. It's super easy. You combine dry ingredients, wet ingredients, put the two together, and you're all set to go. Step one, wet ingredients in this bowl here. A couple of eggs. To that, I'm gonna add the sugar. All right, here's a little twist for you. This is the oil of choice that I'm using for these biscotti. It is extra virgin olive oil. Yes, extra virgin olive oil and chocolate are amazing together. Plus, for this particular recipe, I want the fat, which is the olive oil, to impart a flavor. So if you're gonna use another fat other than olive oil, I would go with melted butter because it's sweet and it's rich, it's gonna be beautiful. So this is gonna go in here. Vanilla extract, real, you just need a teaspoon, it's gonna last you a long time. And now, I'm gonna add the grated zest of a clementine or a mandarin or an orange, really nice with the chocolate. The rasp, by the way, is my tool of choice for this. So the blades are super sharp and you get almost shavings of the zest, which is so great. Now I'm gonna just whisk those together by hand. Wet ingredients, blended. One thing to note here, I put about a cup of sugar in this mixture. By the way, I'm gonna give you all the measurements at the end of the recipe. They're gonna be written down, so do not fret. This is gonna make 40 biscotti. So really, it's about 1 teaspoon per biscotti of sugar, not sweet at all. So this is a nice treat you can have with coffee or tea, and it's not gonna be super sweet. Okay, so this is great. Let me now sift together my dry ingredients. Always great to have a fine mesh sieve like this. To the all-purpose flour, I'm gonna add some cocoa. It's a small amount of cocoa, about 1/3 of a cup. Leavener in the form of baking powder, so they're nice and fluffy. And just a pinch of salt, which I'm gonna put outside because that's not gonna go through my sieve. Sift away, aerating and blending. That's perfect. Now guess what's gonna happen? Your wet, come and meet the dry. The beauty of the biscotti just in general is that it's so versatile. You can flavor it with just about anything you want. I love chocolate and hazelnuts, probably my all-time favorite combination. These have been toasted and peeled, or so the skins are off, so I'm gonna add them now. Whole toasted hazelnuts. Look at those. Here for these simple recipes such as biscotti, the quality of each ingredient paramount. The hazelnuts, you know, if you go to just any grocery store, a lot of times they can be rancid. These nuts have been sitting around. So you want to make sure whatever ingredient you're going to buy, it's going to have the quality and the flavor that you need, because after all, you're making a beautiful cookie. You want it to taste great, and it's so simple. So here is all that I'm after. It's a pretty wet mixture at this point. Now I want to transfer, I'm going to bring this to you, to a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, just because it's so easy at this point, okay? You can see it's pretty heavy. And I like to use these flat ones for this so that it cooks evenly without an edge, so the moisture is going to actually escape. These basically look like two big blobs, and because it's fairly wet, what I do is just put a little bit of olive oil on my hands rub it in, and then I'm gonna use that so it doesn't stick to create like an even shaped log. Same with this guy. It's a little bit messy. At the very end, what I do is use my little offset spatula with just a touch of olive oil on it, just to get them fairly even shaped so that they're gonna spread out to be similar sizes, right? Because this is gonna spread out a fair bit here. There, I'm pretty happy with those. You see how I've left a lot of space in the middle because they do spread out. They don't have to be perfect. This is in fact the most rustic of rustic things to make. The biscotti originally, what the Italians did, or actually one biscotti is biscotto, plural is biscotti. They were super, super hard because the harder a cookie is, it lasts for a long, long time. And then that's why they dip it into espresso to kind of hydrate it so you don't break your teeth. These are not those kinds of biscotti. These are tender, airy inside. They're crunchy, but they're not gonna break your teeth. That's why I created them this way. And one last thing I wanna do, just sprinkle them with a little bit of sugar on top just to give it a crunch. $325 fan or convection, that's a Fahrenheit setting. First bake, because these are going to be baked twice, is about 25 minutes. I'm going to show you what they're going to look like when I take them out. Okay, that was 30 minutes in the oven. So you see how they've expanded and they look a little bit uneven. So now it's important I let them sit for about 5 to 10 minutes just so that they're cool enough that I can slice and they're not going to break. So now they're cool, I can lift them off the baking sheet and I can slice them. The best way to do that, and what you have to have, is a serrated edge knife. So forget about the chef knife, the cleavers. It's got to have a serrated edge because you're sawing through them. You're not actually going to cut down. So what I like to do is cut them at an angle. Now that they're sliced, and they're still warm, but they've cooled down enough that they're not breaking apart, now I just transfer them back to the baking sheet to bake them for a second time so that they can be super crunchy. The two-handed technique here is pretty key because they're still pretty delicate, so you don't want to just throw them on the baking sheet here. Now they're not going to spread, so you can nestle them snugly in here. Last phase is to get these back in the oven, probably another 15 minutes or so. You want to keep an eye on them. The point here is to crisp them up so they don't break and they dry out somewhat, but not too much. Same temperature, 325 with the fan on. After the second bake, which was about 20 minutes also, 325, I've brought them out. They're slightly cooled, and now you can see they hold their shape. That's what I'm looking for. Because these are so dark, I like to do a little sprinkling of icing sugar. Just brightens it up a little bit. The beauty of these biscotti is that they're misshapen. They're not all perfect. They're not all the same size. That's what I love about them. And you can see they're crunchy. They're light, if you actually could feel one. They're crisp, so they're great for dipping, but they're not like those biscotti that break your teeth. It's not about that for me. So a little bit of olive oil, beautiful quality ingredients, and you have yourself a great chocolate hazelnut biscotti. Of course, for me, the best accompaniment to this is a beautiful cappuccino. It's dipping time. First, I want to bite into one just to show you how tender they are. The crunch is great, but it's not super, super hard. Now, I'm gonna make the best use of this beautiful cappuccino, do a little dipping. Thank you so much for joining me on My Favorite Foods for a little chocolate and hazelnut combo. Not too sweet, that's how I like it. Thank you for joining me. I always love sharing my secrets with you. See you next time. Dipping. Perfection.